Today marked the beginning of what was sure to be the most epic if not slightly absurd adventure of my life. My team and I arrived at the dock, all geared up to tackle a wild island in Indonesia. This place was rumored to be rich in natural treasures, and lurking behind every palm tree were oversized, fierce animals waiting to give us the surprise of our lives. Picture us, a ragtag bunch of wannabe adventurers, ready to face whatever this island threw our way. Before we set sail into the unknown, we did our homework researching the environment, ecosystems, and survival techniques as if we were about to take an exam on how not to become dinner for wild animals 101. We crammed so much information that I half expected to find a Survival for Dummies book in our gear bag, next to the sunscreen that would soon be useless because we would be sweating it out like a cheeseburger on a grill. Bright and early, we squeezed into a charmingly vintage local pickup truck. You know, the kind of truck that looks like it was used in a zombie apocalypse film? As we bounced down the road, I half expected to see a T-Rex chasing us, but alas, only palm trees and the occasional chicken provided the scenery. When we finally reached the dock, we couldn't contain our excitement. With a quick wave goodbye to civilization and possibly sanity, we hopped onto a boat that promised a 2-hour ride to our destination. This was no ordinary boat ride, it was a roller coaster on water. As we sped along, the wind whipped through our hair, and the waves slapped against the sides of the boat, threatening to turn us into aquatic adventurers. We laughed, screamed, and whooped as the stunning scenery whizzed by blue waters, green islands, and skies so perfect they seemed to have been painted by a romantic artist. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of dodging waves, we arrived at our destination, Love Island. Yes, you heard that right, Love Island. Not to be confused with the dating show where people throw drama, but a real-life island that had a bright red lake right in the center. It looked like a painting gone wrong, and I half expected Cupid to pop out and shoot us with love arrows. As soon as we set foot on the island, our sense of adventure kicked in. It was time to explore. We set off to discover the breathtaking landscape, which was like nature's greatest hits album. Towering mountains loomed in the background, the beaches stretched on like a never-ending runway, and the mangrove ecosystems were tangled enough to give a seasoned hairdresser nightmares. But amid this breathtaking chaos, we also stumbled upon rare marine creatures. Look, cowrie shells! I shouted like I'd discovered gold, while my teammate, Jerry, went diving headfirst into a pile of leaves, convinced it was a pile of treasure. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. Freshwater was supposed to be a challenge on the island, and soon we realized that survival would require some ingenuity or a miracle. Just when we thought we were doomed to die of dehydration, we found a cluster of coconut trees. Coconuts, our salvation, I cried, like I had just discovered fire. We scrambled up the trees with the grace of lumbering bears, desperately trying to shake down our tropical drinks. After a rather awkward dance with the trees that probably scared off all the wildlife, we successfully knocked down a few coconuts and celebrated like we had just won the lottery. The island appeared before us like a pristine paradise, but maybe just a tad too pristine. The dense foliage looked like it hadn't seen a lawnmower in decades, mosquitoes buzzed around like they were in a marching band, and the sun shone down so fiercely that we half expected it to start charging us rent. As the temperature soared, we began to feel like a bunch of overcooked lobsters. I looked at my teammates, who were sweating like they'd run a marathon in a sauna. We're explorers, I yelled, trying to rally our spirits. We're like Indiana Jones, but with worse outfits and no hats. Our supplies were dwindling faster than my patience, and the idea of surviving on our emergency granola bars was becoming increasingly depressing. We needed to find food, and fast. With our stomachs growling louder than a crowd at a football game, we decided it was time to forage for dinner. We traipsed around the island, which quickly turned into a hilarious episode of Survivor, Comedy Edition. After what felt like hours of rummaging, we proudly gathered a handful of suspiciously lush wild leaves which looked edible but could just as easily double as poison ivy. A few tiny sea snails that were so small they might as well have been appetizers, and a crab that had clearly made a coconut shell its summer home. Just as we settled down for our feast, a rustling sound in the nearby bushes caught our attention. My heart raced as we all turned in unison, the earlier laughter replaced with a tense silence. Out from the foliage, a wild boar emerged, snorting and eyeing us like we were a buffet on legs. Panic spread through the group. "Run, don't be its next meal." Jerry screamed, and we all scrambled up a nearby tree faster than squirrels on caffeine. Perched precariously on the branches, we watched as the boar sniffed around our makeshift dining area, clearly unimpressed by our culinary choices. It trotted around, grunting and huffing, as if trying to decide whether we were a threat or just ridiculous trespassers. After what felt like an eternity of holding our breath, the boar eventually lost interest and wandered off, leaving us both relieved and mildly embarrassed. That day's lunch turned into a feast like no other: wild leaf salad, sea snail soup, and the piece de resistance grilled crab served in a coconut shell. We gathered around our makeshift dining table and dug in. Each dish had its own unique flavor profile, but the crab? Well, it tasted like I was chewing on a coconut husk with a side of regret. But hey, we were hungry, and when you're on a deserted island, you learn to appreciate the finer points of dining on questionable cuisine. In addition to our wild foraging skills, we brought along an arsenal of modern survival tools. We had drones, survival knives, and gadgets that would make any survivalist weep with joy. The mangrove forest was a tangled mess of roots that looked like they were auditioning for a role in a horror movie. But it was also where we found hidden treasures, plump cowrie shells, bizarre marine creatures that looked like they belonged in a sci-fi film, and plenty of photo opportunities for our Instagram accounts. As we ventured deeper into the island, we encountered all sorts of wild animals. It was like stepping into a wildlife documentary with us as the uncoordinated stars. Feral beasts scuttled away, and mysterious creatures peeked out from behind bushes as if they were silently judging our life choices. Every step was an adventure, and every misstep was a potential new viral video. Suddenly, while exploring a particularly dense part of the forest, we heard a rustling sound that was not just the wind. My heart raced as a massive monitor lizard, easily the size of a small dog, emerged from the underbrush. It was the most prehistoric-looking creature I had ever seen, and I could feel its gaze boring into my soul. "Stand still," I whispered urgently, half expecting it to launch an attack like something out of Jurassic Park. After a moment that felt like a lifetime, the lizard turned and lumbered away, leaving us all standing frozen. Next time I say let's explore deeper, remind me that we're not equipped for a monster movie. I joked nervously, but my heart was still pounding. After a long day of exploration and questionable dietary choices, we decided to set up camp for the night. Our tent resembled a giant bird's nest built from crooked branches and dry leaves. I half expected to wake up with a few confused birds thinking they'd found a new home. Just as we finally settled in and started to doze off, the heavens opened up. Rain poured down like someone had dumped a bucket of water on us, transforming our cozy little nest into a mini swimming pool. While we desperately tried to escape the puddles, we heard strange noises from the distance. Curiosity got the better of us, and we cautiously crept closer to investigate. To our surprise, we stumbled upon a local tribe hosting a feast that looked like it was straight out of a travel show. They graciously invited us to join them, our stomachs rumbling like a distant thunderstorm we couldn't refuse. The first dish was a skewered grilled caterpillar, which looked like it had seen better days. I glanced at my teammates, who were trying their best to keep straight faces while I silently calculated how many of these delicacies it would take to get us sick. Next came a bowl of soup made from some strange roots that looked suspiciously like something you'd find in a science experiment. Finally, we were served a glass of wild fruit juice that was so sour it could make a lemon cry. We each took tentative sips, grimacing as our faces contorted in a way that made us look like we'd just bitten into a Sour Patch Kid. We struggled to eat every bite, but honestly, swallowing felt like a test of willpower. After the feast, we politely excused ourselves, still recovering from the culinary roller coaster we just experienced. As we made our way back to our tent, we couldn't help but